Ho ho ho, this is Waffle Kitty, and today, I want to tell everyone, Merry Wafflemas. I'm so bloody thrilled to celebrate my first Christmas on YouTube. It's been a rough week, so I took some time off for mental health. So, in celebration, I want to get back to business by discussing the best game you haven't played. Your Turn to Die, Death Game by Majority. I vaguely referenced this game in my Danganronpa video. So boring characters both physically or in their personality, because every character is diverse and full-fledged enough to last to the end. Unlike other games with NPCs that only exist to die early, every character from the first death to the MC could die at any time because each character is so well developed. No one is safe. According to game developer Kodarka, he stated he desired to shake users' heart by showing a devastating accident in not devastating ways. But, by some measure, it might be more shocking than showing a devastating scene. The game has a miraculous ability to turn characters you loathe into favorites by last-minute reveals, much like another game I might talk about soon. But I think it's finally time to discuss it. Per usual, I plan to divide it into 4 sections: the history of the game, the plot, why I love it so much, and my conclusion and final thoughts. Also, I want to include my trap remix cover of one of the OSTs at the end just for fun, I suppose. I apologize in advance for the awfulness. Yes, I understand your thoughts. I doubt too many have actually heard of this game. But when I went to snuggle with Giles and watch the snow in a pile of blankets, my phone played one of the tracks from the game. I don't know the reason. I suppose it's a sign? So grab some eggnog and spiked hot chocolate for the 3rd episode of Wafflemas 2020, the first non-religion based, non-family friendly, Super Waffle Y holiday on YouTube. The game was singularly developed by single-person game development company Nankadai, and released over a span of a few years, and honestly I dunno, there is literally no history on this game. WTF, I guess I spent 7.5 hours looking for interviews and info, so that's a dud I suppose. Oh, fuck.
The Grinch simply said, "If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead."
The game revolves around high schooler Sarah Chidian, and her best friend Joe Tazuna. After waking up in a strange building, Joe must save Sarah from the first trial, a puzzle with dangerous consequences. If he succeeds, the game moves into the first floor, where you meet a cast of 11 characters, each with secrets to hide. The characters explore the floor, getting minimal backstories, with suspicion and distrust evident even from Joe. Slowly, the plot plays through discovering clues, conversing with the characters, looking for a certain character because I can't ever seem to keep track of him, which is probably purposeful, mini-games, and searching the floor for info and aforementioned teleporting. Incredibly frustrating Benny Man. After all the plot and clues have been laid out, the characters proceed into the main game. To put it simply, it's a majority vote to be I with a twist. The main game relies on cards hidden around the facility, at least for the first main game. There are 4 types of cards: 1 Keymaster, 1 Sage, and 1 Sacrifice, with the rest as commoners. Now, I should probably discuss the cards. The first is the Keymaster. If the Keymaster is chosen, they and everyone else does. Next is the Sage. The Sage can see who the Keymaster is, but can't lie about the reading. The Sage generally tries to keep hidden, as they are an easy vote out. Finally, the Sacrifice. The owner of the card needs to receive the most votes or tie for first, or else they die as well. In the preliminary round, the participants are given 70 minutes to discuss any relevant topic to decide who is either the least cooperative or most suspicious. Usually, these events come with major plot twists, important revelations, and game-changing arguments, with Sarah having to keep up her clout by refuting or agreeing with points, using evidence, and solving mysteries, or losing all influence over the vote. For most of the main game, a very Kokichi Esquire character with a grudge against you constantly lies and tricks the candidates quite skillfully, and when you have to argue with him, it's much harder. Then, everyone most nominating half of the candidates. The final vote had a time limit of 20 minutes. The time limits put an extra strain on the game, as it wasn't just as simple as a moral debate. After the results are completed, the remaining group moves up to the next floor, with each floor hiding secrets, more backstories, plot development, betrayal, new games, multiple traps, a new card system, and new character dialogue. As the plot progresses, you are constantly forced to choose between two characters' survival, with one remaining in the story, and the other meeting an untimely end.
They'll sing and they'll sing, 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 sing.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more.
Now, as I discussed earlier, the game is extremely underrated. But the mild success the game has had is often credited to another game. This game is constantly compared to Danganronpa, and most of its fanbase came from the area. If you yourself have heard of this game or played it before, I'd place a wager at Shorefield that you learned of it as the game like Danganronpa. But YTTD can hold its own independently, and in some areas, is even better than Danganronpa. To begin, the writing is wonderful. While I love the writing in Danganronpa, the writing in this game is much better. The dialogue is far more realistic, as well as endearing. As for why it's more endearing, that's another one of your turned-eye strengths. In the Danganronpa games, each character is comically exaggerated and a bit underdeveloped, and it's generally a bit more difficult to become emotionally attached to them. However, in YTTD, the characters act much more like regular people would if thrown in the situation, with flaws and complex views of the world. There's no good or evil, but almost eerily realistic people. Every character is the type usually killed off first in horror cinema. They don't always protect everyone or do the right thing. They make greedy choices. They're selfish and scared and paranoid, and when you do see the bravery, it doesn't feel cheap or cheesy. The writers slowly build up character arcs, but going back, you can see clues and dialogue within their personality that relate to things later revealed. The whole basis of the game so far is emotion versus logic, and even that slightest choices can have far-reaching consequences. At the start, most all the characters are purposely written to be unlikable and odd. The game design ties into this, making the color scheme and physical appearance of most strange. But like Danganronpa, by the end, they reveal more complex motivations or plot twists in the case of one, and slowly you unknowingly become emotionally attached to them. You finally get to see the hidden deaths of the characters usually killed off in the first few minutes, the oddballs and misunderstood teachers who are most certainly not smoking, so don't tell anyone he is. A lot of the game is based on redemption, but it's up to you if you trust them again. As I said in the video, the game is primarily dialogue-based, and so it makes sense the major highlight of the game is the character writing. But perhaps it isn't wise to become emotionally attached to characters when you have to choose between the survival of two. Sounds a bit familiar. What? Josh, where did you come from? The music is almost as fantastic. Each OST is unique, and can effortlessly raise or lower the tension of the character. Same with the game design. The game was developed using almost ancient pixel graphics and single-person sprite conversation, and I have reason to believe this is almost certainly on purpose. The game also excels at changing subtle details to completely change the mood or intention, such as changing the color of text or a new sprite. This usually leads to terrifying and psychologically unnerving jump scares, and in one certain chase, one of the most surprising and unnerving character snaps of all time since The Ultimate Lucky Student. The clues and mysteries are mostly character-based but just as complex and difficult. It's constant betrayal after betrayal. And that brings me to my final point, plot twists. So many fucking plot twists. There are so many plot twists, and each and every one hurts. All I'm going to say on the subject is this: If you don't want spoilers, look at the timestamp and go there. Hurry up. Last chance. 3.2.1. Joe. No. Although after my third playthrough, I'm pretty sure he's actually evil. I cried for like 30 minutes. I was so shocked and sad. WTF. Also, I'm officially a Sue simp now. I'm a lesbian, as well as having him for the first half of the game, so I don't even know how that's possible. But the game is that good at writing. In conclusion, Your Turn to Die is a thoroughly underrated game, and I cannot recommend it more. From the characters, to the subtle details, to the art style, it's more than worth your time. It's so impressive coming from a one-man studio, and I can't wait for the next chapter. Thankfully, you can play the game for free on your browser. I know, a browser game? But it truly has broken the mold of web browsers being less superior, or less quality. So much work and detail is put into every background and character. I love this game, and I absolutely hope you will as well. Now, I hope you enjoy this remix. I took the samples from the OST majority vote. I'll most likely set it as its own separate video as well, and have Wafflemas Day 5 out soon. Anyways, thanks for watching, Merry Wafflemas, and make to subscribe or Giles will steal your presents and shit in your stockings. Thanks.